Welcome, Will. Linville, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited to have everybody here. And I'll just be admitting people as they join in on the conversation. So we're going to be talking and doing a meditation and sharing some stuff about dolphins and whales. And then at the end, people will have a chance if they want to ask questions and all of that. So that's kind of the format. And Will, what do you want to start with? What would you like to share?
Well, it's great to be here, and thank you so much for this beautiful opportunity, and an honor to get to play together again.
Yes. Yes, the dolphins are having fun. They're a little hungry this morning. They're eating my shirt.
Right there in the background, just pecking away.
Yes, yes. Someone said they're very still. Your dolphins are really still. And I said they're actually really going very, very fast. You just can't see them. How fast they're going.
You said you took that picture off the back of a boat, correct?
Yes, on Kauai. Yeah. That's the Hawaiian spinner dolphins.
Yeah, they're really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, there certainly is. It's nice to see dolphins in the wild as opposed to seeing them in captivity. So
yeah, they behave totally different, don't they?
Yes, they definitely do. So yeah, Will, do you want to just open with a little intro, and then we'll get into the myth. I actually brought my bowl. If you'd like to do that for the meditation.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, pineal. It's a pineal.
Well, one thing, when we go into the oceanic realms, it's so awesome because you start to go, it's kind of like when you turn around and you look at the oceanic realms and with your back towards shore, it really doesn't matter where you live. When you look out on the oceanic realm, sunlight, sunset, sunrise, it's one of these things where your whole body, it shifts. And the cells, they start opening up, they start expanding, they start accelerating. And you feel that sense of wonder, but also that sense of unlimitedness, the sense of beauty, brilliance, and the sense of freedom. And one thing I love about that is that that's where your consciousness, your higher levels are coming in. You no longer have a finite focal point. And as you do no longer have a finite focal point, you go into that state of wonder. You go into that state of openness. You go into also that beautiful childlike spirit, which I call it childlike because it's an innocent spirit. It's a spirit that there's nothing serious. It's a spirit that there's no bills, there's no conflicts of any sort whatsoever. It's a sense of total complete openness, receptivity, amplifiedness that just adds and adds and adds to yourself, to your body. And that's why there's so many therapies around the oceanic realm. So many therapies, even if you go back to Atlantean, to the oceanic realms, to the crystals, the crystal activation amplifiers, to where it even has a whole different effect on the platelets of blood within your body, through each and every cell, every molecule, and that sense of being able to breathe again, wide openness, amplifiedness, and then, of course, the purity, divinitization, purification, even of the salt water, but also that open, expansive expressiveness, which is much more impactful, even from the salt caves and crystalline structures, because you open, you go, you open, you emanate, you activate, you amplify, and then you become that much more receptive to within and through all that is. And as all that is starting to respark, starting to reawaken, start to reactivate, amplify, and emanate right throughout your physical beingness, you go beyond that state of motherhood, childhood, wifehood, husbandhood, whatever, brotherhoods, and so forth. And you start opening and opening to that beautiful, pure essence, the beautiful, pure, it's almost like a pure rainbow without all the segregations of colors. It's pure frequencies, pure benevolences, pure omnipotences that continue to activate, to open, to emanate, that also come through with such great fluidity, such great crystalline beingness, speaking that of the Christ consciousness as well. The crystalline beingness, the crystalline particles of light, particles of love, particles of definition that come in, come through, and activate that also literally affects the lungs, the kidneys, the gallbladder, the spleens, the pancreases, the liver, and brain chemistry, front, middle, and back chemistries of the brain, all the way through the neural pathways of the brain, all the way through the master cell. And it's that sense of elation, but yet also at that point, you have no identification. You're not trying to live up to this, look like that, behave like that, speak like this, speak like that, do this, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And it brings back that purity of your very soul, your very heart. And it also releases the diaphragm. It releases all the buildup of constrictednesses until you turn back around, look back on shore, and then brother humanity becomes real. Societies become real. Traffic becomes real. Cars become real. Your personal identities perceivably become real, that now, okay, you can even feel the physical reaction where your body goes into lockdown mode. It goes into predatory survival, which goes through the fight and flight responses, the adrenaline levels, and where the organs start become more and more constricted, because now the family monads become real, your belief systems come real, your identifications once again become overloaded, good girl, good boy, bad boy, and all these fun things that come in and come through to start really taking a toll. But then oddly enough, how it takes a toll, but then it starts breaking down the physicality, because now we're even perceiving time and space to be real. You get the time and space, and then you have all this a whole nother barrage of, am I will I did do the right thing, based in the tormentors of the mind, all the way through comfort is bad, pain is bad, comfort is good, the point of life is to be undisturbed. All of these interesting belief systems and these ideals of comfort zones, until we turn back around again. We look at the auspiciousness, the mysteriousness, the magicalness.
Yeah, so magical, so magical. Will, have you ever encountered dolphins personally? Have you swam with the dolphins or been in the water or been around dolphins?
Yeah, I have. Even with the package I picked up of this body, the old Will, he used to be on a surf team in high school, and he would love going out there during storms and love going out there around sunrise and sunset, just for that specific purpose. From La Jolla to Del Mar to Swami's and Pacific Beach, Ocean Beach, all over the place, San Onofre, to just be there with the porpoises, the oceanic crowns, and even ride the waves with them. And my experience, for myself now, yes, I was co-facilitating an event at the what is it, Honolulu Resort or something like that, one of the resorts on the Big Island, and they had a dolphin pool, but it was interesting. It's like right there on the shore, but it was inland by the hotel. Yeah, Waikoloa Resort, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I swam with the dolphins in that pool, and it kind of amazed me. Because I watched the children, which is always fun, and then I watched the other adults, the tourists, blah, blah, blah. But what rushed over me so powerfully when I went into the water was just, it was like a blanket of sadness that basically almost brings tears to your eyes. It was like a blanket of heaviness, a blanket of sadness, to where, it really opened up so much more, because you're watching how the ones in the pool are still communicating with their pod offshore. They just haven't found a way to reach them. Now I honor how they volunteered to be a big part of assisting brother humanity in a way of bringing clarity, understanding to that kingdom, all the way through science, and how science, they've really opened the eyes due to them deciding, okay, we'll come in, we'll perceivably volunteer, we'll swim around the pools, and we'll show them and teach them about DNA, about RNA, about cellular vibratory levels, and also even going into telepathy, all the way going into, because they don't have a human body, but they still have a lot of smarts, a lot of huge divine intellect, and where they communicate from a distance. almost like telepathically, but technically it's dimensionally, and how they still connect. So beyond the separation from where the pool ended to where the ocean began, they're still communicating through there. They just don't quite have the attributes of being able to take their physical bodies there. And it's so interesting because you connect with them and then you connect with the pods. And then and it seems true, SeaWorld, whether it be Orlando, San Diego, where they're still close enough. And it's kind of interesting because they're so multidimensional that they're still sending thought. If you can imagine a web of consciousness, so a stream of consciousness that are so intertwined, it's kind of like DNA. You take out a piece of your DNA, take it across the planet, you watch a film, whatever, that DNA across the planet is still going to respond because time and space isn't real. And that was a scientific experiment. But what I find awesome, also curious, is how they intertwine, how they connect, how they interact together or apart. Then it goes, I remember I would be climbing the cliffs in La Jolla and diving in to the water. I would be climbing the cliffs in the middle of the night just to be closer to that realm, going to the Wyland galleries and so forth and so forth. That it was so amazing how it's interesting, right? Because they still swirled around me. Them, the orcas, the humpbacks, the gray whales, and really all these beautiful oceanochrome kingdoms that they would still communicate even when I relocated my body from La Jolla and San Diego area all the way to Las Vegas, how I would sit back, no more different than when I was on the cliffs. And they will show up. They're swimming around you, so you might as well be like in the middle of the oceanic realm at that time because they're swimming all around you. Same with the orcas, belugas, and the pilot whales, and so forth. That it's so interesting is they constantly communicate and connect with you depending on your levels of openness. And remember, I'll never forget actually the orcas that were taking me through these crystalline caverns. In the oceanic realms, um, some off the East Coast, some off the West Coast, but how they will take you on these adventures where they take you down into these beautiful crystalline caverns that are very luminescent and take you further and further into their kingdom and beyond just their kingdom, where they connect with off planet, on planet, where they connect also with the ones they were sharing with me had a lot to do with the white tigers and white lions, but they're not prejudiced, so really connect with all the kingdoms. But those are the ones that really stood out most, where they would emanate, share data and information, amplifications, activations, and especially with the crystalline structures within your body, within theirs, and then through these caverns, where they've been such beautiful placeholders, but also going back to the harmonic convergence, going back to when there used to be placeholders more frequently. But now, it's interesting, you follow the songs of the whales and even the porpoises and dolphins and so forth. You follow those kingdoms and you follow the tones and frequencies of those kingdoms, how they operate off activating grids with their songs, plural. They activate, it's like the singing bowl you brought up earlier. They activate, but with higher, more in-depth tones. And it's interesting, I find the correlation, especially when we have these bowls on land, but yet how they integrate and come together so beautifully with the sounds, with the frequencies, with the tones that those kingdoms are emitting, and then of course with the wisdoms, the data, information, past, present, future, from really for separation to now, how they've been holding those pitches and also activating grids, regardless of what the mass consciousness is doing. They're constantly stabilizing these grids, activating, opening them up, and then going along their own journey as amplifiers and space holders for brother humanity.
Yeah, no, I think it's beautiful. in that cave that you've been to, I've gone, that you mentioned, I've gone in my meditations. It's interesting that you mentioned that, and I'm sure other people maybe have also, you can comment in the chat, but it's like that, they take you down to this sacred site. And when I go down into that cave, I see this light. It's like a treasure box, you know, treasure chest. And this light emanating from this treasure chest of all these treasures, but they're, you know, not like gold and silver type of treasures, but other types of treasures. Some of them are crystalline and other like that, Andaras that I love to play with and stuff like that. And that treasure just is like the next step on your path, on your spiritual path that I've received when I do that meditation with the dolphins. Yeah. And Mariana said, I've been into the caverns with them. The light was unbelievable, crystal and brilliant, and I was in total bliss. Yeah, can't wait to do it again. Yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely like that, the fact that we all have like this same vision, and when we connect in with them and then they take us down into that cavern is pretty powerful and magical.
Especially when you go into the crystalline caverns. And then one thing I always found to be quite curious and fun was to go through just one facet of one crystal in the crystalline cavern. Each and every angle, it brings forth a different tone, a different frequency, and different encodements of consciousness that constantly unravels and unravels once you go into it, and how it's so filled with data, clarity, information, communion, harmonances, and then it goes beyond the harmonances into more and more activatedness, amplification, and how there's like they're endless, and then once you go through one, there's another that presents in its place. So all of it comes back to, you know, activating, amplifying, but also all the different multitude layers of the ascension status, ascending in vibratory principles, in vibratory frequencies and megahertz. And then megahertz of light, of course, because it all really comes back to light and those megahertz, but then how it activates, initiates, and then they arise, amplify, they hold a certain vibratory level and frequencies, and they bring in new ones through the frequencies, the tones, and the sounds in which they emit in using their bodies as instruments. But then if you correlate that with watching what's going on land, how the consciousnesses keep playing off each other to rise in consciousness, ascending in vibratory levels, and then it'll come to an anchor, and then the next plateau comes in. And it's so cool because as humanity arises, they arise. As they arise, humanity arises. So it's such a beautiful dance.
So are they here to raise, to become more conscious and aware themselves, as well as, or to assist us with our ascension process?
And that's what I love about the oceanic realms. You know, they never really fell asleep. Humanity.
Interesting. Yeah.
So they did here.
So they didn't do the fall, or what they call the fall.
No. They've gone into, and it's interesting, right? You play with this, you play with that, and then you watch how this may happen on land, battles, wars, rah, rah, rah. But it's interesting, right? How they sometimes present right there until things go south. Then they'll phase out into deeper waters and they'll come back. It's like an ebb and flow of activating, amplifying, and even assisting humanity to, I guess if I'm gonna call it anything, to come back into your own beingness. Even the species of humanity, it's a physical form, obviously. It has arms, legs, blah, blah, blah. But it's so interesting, right? Because then you go into the merman kingdoms that part human, part fish. And you go through those realms, which is the two kingdoms, two species attempting to merge. Now, and it's a really, not to become a merman or mermaid or however you want to go there, but it's one of those things where sometimes you may really desire to just to take 5 from what's going on land. But it's interesting, right? Because the veils are becoming so thin, so translucent, to where, they're stabilizing the consciousness of humanity, planetary platelets, volcanic activities, on and on. They're beautiful stabilizers. But then over here, it's creating this, it's almost like getting stitches, except for less pain. It intertwines
Mhm.
to where it becomes that much more of a full connected state of a web, of a matrix around, even around the cosmic lattice work. And they're continuing to activate, amplify their frequencies, their tones, their sounds that they emit, including like dolphins, for example, are known inside and out for activating DNA. That's
Mhm.
why on the first event, we are talking about them being the best, whether it be metaphysicians or medical team. They're going to be the first ones to assist you big time, because they don't really sense a level of separation, but they do constantly, so cool. They jump, they play, they sing, and what a beautiful reminder for humanity to lighten up already, to be able to enjoy all of creation.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to do a little meditation to take people on a little journey? Just a short,
Yeah,
let's do
yeah, of
just
course.
like a little, and I have my breath.
The purple one.
The purple one. This is the pineal gland. I don't know
Uh-huh.
how the sound is going to come through on all this,
You
but
take request?
I'm sorry.
You take request?
Yes, what do you play? Mary had a
Mary had a
little
little
lamb.
lamb?
That's about all I can play. Were you going to say that? Jinx. Yeah, me better.
Okay, so yeah, so right now, let's just take a deep breath in through your nose, closing the eyes and allowing the eyes just focus on the master cell and the pineal and pituitary glands. And as we go there, just letting your consciousness just sink right into the heart. Taking another deep breath in through the nose to the lower tummy. Hold. And slowly exhaling through the mouth like you're attempting to blow out a candle. Exhaling the tension, exhaling the emotions, exhaling identities. Just do it again. Another deep breath through the nose, all the way between the navel and the gender principle, or the pelvic girdle. Hold. Exhaling as slow as you can. And exhaling the cause, the core, the record, and the effect of any and every identity experience you've ever had in a physical form.
Mm.
Good, bad, however it's judged, just releasing the cause, the core, the record, and the effect of them. And on the next breath, inhaling through the nose, back between the navel and the pelvic girdle. Just exhaling as slow as you can, releasing even the idea of a separated, segregated self, as well as the cause, the core, the record, and the effect of it. And now just allowing the heart to open more and more as your pure source, in communion with you as creator source. And just letting yourself arise and arise through the heart level. Letting the heart move downwardly to absorb the solar plexus. Letting it arise and arise, larger and larger, front, middle, and back of the body, all the way through your creator chakra level vortex. All the way through the pelvic girdle, all the way through the gender principle, the root chakra level vortex. Just allowing the heart to fully absorb all these levels and layers of segregation, separation from yourself and from your source, all the way down through the upper legs, the lower legs, into the feet. And now, coming all the way from the heart, moving upwardly through the sternum, the throat, into, within and through the third eye and the master self, and the pineal and pituitary gland, going all the way up through the crown chakra level vortex, letting it amplify, accelerate, become larger and larger. Where eventually the crown has come all the way down through your whole upper body and through the heart, letting them fully, completely merge together as a clear connectedness, a clear conduit of connectedness. And now, let's bring our consciousness from the heart all the way up through the mass collective thought forms, all the way through the astral planes of consciousness, all the way up into and through the cosmic lattice work, all the way to the sun. Let's just hold our consciousness there, going beyond the sun, throughout the whole universe, into and through your central sun intelligence. And let's just let ourselves be fully embraced there for a moment, into all that is. And now, let's bring ourselves from your creator source intelligence, bring in a beautiful stream of gold, a beautiful stream of light, beautiful stream of consciousness, from your central sun intelligence through the physical sun, and bring this beautiful ribbon of light all the way down through the oceanic realms. Let's go first into the Orcas, that beautiful kingdom, going right into their brains, looking through their eyes, moving into their bodies, their forms, feeling the elation, playfulness. Let's just ask them to take us on a journey into and through their world. Where we can go through their world, we can go through these chambers and caverns, to where we can not just see, but fully experience that light in the caverns, where we can fully go into each one, receiving all the gifts, all the blessings, the communions, the activations, the initiations that come from these very iridescent places, where we can see, we can download, we can absorb all these beautiful encodements of consciousness from each and every facet of each and every crystal within these caverns. And now let's just pick one single encodement of consciousness. And now let's walk right through it, that encodement, walking right through that portal, right through that door, to Pleiades, to Orion, to Neptune, all these areas where these kingdoms have come from. Through the Pashans, And let's just go around, just observe whatever you observe, receive whatever you receive. And right now, let's just ask them, what else here do you have to offer? What else here would you love to show me? What else here would you love to embrace me with? Now that we're in their kingdom, going through all these spaces and places beyond space and time, beyond your day-to-day intellect, going more into your divine intellect, of total embracement, total communion, just allowing for them to show you more and more, offering you, giving to you, embracing you, activating you, initiating you, to where every dimension becomes more and more open, more activated, more amplified, to where right here, right now, we can just take another breath through the nose, all the way into the lower tummy. And now as we're inhaling, let's inhale all that love, all those particles of light, all those particles of consciousness, all that beautiful embracement. To no end, exhaling any and all identifications, emotions, based with what is played out on land, in a body on a planet. And now, let's tell them thank you. And now let's go right into the dolphins, porpoises, spinners, and so forth. Going right back through the physical sun, bringing this beautiful ribbon of light right down through the porpoise kingdom. Just taking a breath, going right into and through their forms. Here you can see, you can experience, and absorb that beautiful joy, beautiful playfulness, the fearlessness, the curiosity, the mysticalness, the magicalness. To where we can really feel your presence, but yet the freedom of your presence in which they're sharing with you. Their homeostasis, their purity, the non-agenda land, where we just continue to open, to initiate, to activate, as well as receiving all the gifts in which they have to share with you. As your compadres, your camaraderies, as a beautiful mystical dance where they're saying, sing, be happy, don't worry, be free, have no concern, only have that of playfulness, joy, your natural state before the ego was created. The sense of adventure, exploration, once again, mysticalness, to where there is only a beginning, but there truly is no end. To where now we can ask them to take us further into their pods, or further being engulfed, further being activated, further being embraced, to where you can see through their eyes. You can see through their eyes that all the beautiful particles of light that make up what's perceived to be an oceanogram is perceived to be water, and how they are so buoyant, not so much about floating, because in their world, it's like floating through air. It's not a contemplation. It goes beyond levitating. It goes into knowing that all is well, that all is embracing, to where the streams of consciousness from them to you, you to them, where we start to welcome more and more of a harmoniance, more and more of an amplifiedness, more and more of an inner and external spiral of consciousness, and all the beauty, the love, the joy, once again, the playfulness, the iridescence in which both of these kingdoms have to share. And now, let's just listen to their song. This time, let's let those frequencies run right through your body, as if they don't have a form, as if it's tones and frequencies from the whole universe coming in, coming through, that are activating, that are amplifying, that are iridescent, letting it come through your whole body from head to toe, toe to head, realigning even the energy centers, the meridians, to where all the blockages, aches, pains, contemplation, self-identification, body identifications, gender identifications, well, all of that can just float away. That the only thing real right now is that presence, your presence, where nothing is boxing you in, nothing's confining you, but coming back to that natural flow, like particles in the air or particles of oxygenation. And
Good you go, Will.
I'm right here.
Okay.
Someone muted me for some reason.
There you are.
So I became unmuted, so I stopped. And now let's bring all of this consciousness right back through the heart, as if there is no separation from your heart to theirs or your heart to anything or anyone. We can feel that pure light. We can feel that pure love, pure joy, pure playfulness, pure bliss. And letting it all integrate, emanate, amplify, and embody right now. Just taking one last deep breath. And letting you, the love, the consciousness, your higher levels, that you as your higher levels come in, come through the physical form, to where we no longer have any segregation nor separation from any kingdoms. And on the last breath, right here, let's put our palms together, and on the exhale, pushing our palms together and pushing the feet into the floor for all of these activations, amplifications to integrate, emanate, and to lock in permanently. And so it is.
Namaste. Wow. That's all I can say.
What beautiful music. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Will. That was awesome. A little emotional for me. But that was awesome. Because coming back into my body, if anybody wants to share in the chat about your experience, but oh my God, yes, yeah, just coming back, come back, grounding, grounding, grounding. Woo. Yeah, that was awesome. Very profound. Just yeah, just amazing. Just amazing.
And if I may add one more thing, let's now, very cognitively, consciously, let's go right back into the oceanic realms through their eyes, looking back at brother humanity.
I see a lot of chuckles.
Oh, a lot. Total comedy club.
Those silly humans. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and one thing I constantly hear from here is, why are you taking everything so serious? We have the trees, we have the oceanochrums, the fishies, the mammals. We have foliage all over the place that's constantly reminding us, don't worry, be happy. Like the song.
Yes.
Oh, let's not be serious. Let's be light. And, even the Buddha, eat, drink, be enlightened, to lighten up.
Yeah, nothing serious going on down here.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like that meditation in itself just shifted a lot of things. I'm curious about the connection with the dolphins in the DNA. Like, what exactly is that connection and how does that work? I mean, I feel like just that meditation that you did that brought us to the dolphin and whale and beluga world um, was shifting DNA, but can you elaborate a little bit on what exactly, the role of the dolphins are with the DNA and how that shifts?
Yeah, and it's one of the funner ones because they're so connected with the Pleiadians. They're bringing Pleiadian streams of energy and consciousness. Some with the Orion, but Orion presents a lot more with like the orcas and the gray whales, and where they come in, they're spiraling together. They're bringing together a whole different level of a whole different matrix of a Merkaba that goes through the genetic streams, and they're sending high-pitched frequencies to reactivate the pleasure centers of the brain and to reactivate the frontal lobe, technically the back of the brain as well, and a lot on the left side to marry with the right, and then bringing it through, right through the midbrain, and bringing forth these arrays, bringing forth these frequencies, bringing forth these activators to break away the incrustaciousness that have been over and through the pineal pituitary gland, the crustaciousnesses that have created your was become, let's just say, so numb, so turned off from feeling and perceiving themselves to be the thoughts they're having. Now, they're coming in with the ability to activate the DNA, the RNA, and they go through the pleasure center, they go right through your heart, they go through the visual, all the way through the mystical, all the way through the esoteric realms and bodies, to bring in this very directive strands of DNA to correct the ones that have been in default, including to correct in starting to correct and reactivate, even through the mother of pearl frequency, right through the telomere, that are going into also the reversing of the aging process. And they use their bodies as these brilliant instruments and conduits to omit these higher energy, higher level of frequencies that have been activating, that have been amplifying, that have been really radiating with that much more directness, that much more profound effect to create new messages through the cells, through the molecules, even through the neural pathways, going all the way down, really unraveling the human genome through the atomic and subatomic particles. And they reactivate them, they're assisting with these to be rewritten within yourself. Kind of like the whole idea of the Dead Sea Scrolls, blah, 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 where they are bringing in new scrolls of data and information, new levels of energy, new levels of consciousness that are coming through the whole physical form, almost like the Daya Camille, which is one of the Reiki mastery symbols, to blast through, go direct, like two lightning bolts as a jolt, and then going through the next symbol, which is almost like the one that has been translated as faith through chaos. They're coming in to shake that apart, to bring forth full, complete, integrated connectedness and communion with you being fully and connected with you, your higher levels, and all that is, from a whole new array of cracking apart all the crustaceousness to allow for purification, divination, and integration to a very sacred dance in which they offer through the DNA.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. And you don't have to be in their physical presence to connect with them in that way, right?
No, the
It,
physical presence, that's, you know, it's kind of interesting because when I've played with the physical presences and so forth, well, oh, do you mind if I get this? No, I'm just teasing.
is it the dolphins or the orcas?
Yeah, I think that was the belugas playing around.
Okay.
Yeah, their physical presence, yeah, there's a lot of amplification. But here's the thing, they're so dimensional. I couldn't tell when I was in Vegas when they were, I'd say, technically swimming all around me in the living room, or when I was literally physically in the oceanic realms.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you could imagine water, the molecules of water, where they're concerned, they're matter principles to a certain degree, but then they expand the water. So now they're in between the two molecules where they expand upon, expand upon, expand upon dimensionally to where they're right there in Vegas as much as you are or wherever you're at. It's just going through that floodgate, lightening up, saying namaste, have a blast to all the seriousness, and goodbye, goodbye, goodbye to all of the personalized, perceptual, independent identities that you're waving goodbye to where you can let more of you come in and more of them come in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's actually, for me, easier. I mean, I've done both, swam with dolphins and meditated with dolphins. When
Uh-huh.
you're swimming with dolphins, you know, they're there, but they're like, they're so fast, you know.
Yeah.
But when you're meditating with them, I mean, I have a stronger connection with them.
Yeah,
In
and
that
the
sense.
beautiful part of that is that your sensory neurons are not in overwhelm. Like trying to maintain oxygenation, buoyancy, trying to maintain being focused over here, here, here of all the surroundings, which it's a lot of preoccupations that gets the mental, like the mental genie involved. This is does that net. Okay, it's been an hour. My tank's running low. Got to come up. You know, all that stuff, preoccupations to really just go right into their world with no concern.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't, I just want to be clear on something, Jeannie. When we go here, we're not leaving the body. We're integrating and expanding further through the body that lets all these kingdoms open up around us.
Mm, beautiful. It's beautiful. So when they're activating the DNA, like there's certain DNA that we know on the DNA strand that are not turned on. Are they
Uh-huh.
actually turning those DNA strands? You know, like are they turning those
Yeah.
on? And,
Yeah, because you go back to, let's say, the mass collective consciousness. With, on the average, through your whole life, you use 2, maybe 3% of the brain. They're here activating to where eventually the ideal is we're opening up all these caverns within the brain, all the different sensory neurons within the brain, all the different ability of sight, sense, extrasensory neurons, you know, all the way through what's called your superhuman attributes, your creator consciousness through a mammalian species, to where the ideal eventually is to have the brain at 100%. They're assisting with that, and it goes beyond thought, it goes beyond word, it goes beyond even corpuscles of touch, to where we're going more into your activated amplifiedness states that make you more sensitive, more aware, more, it's kind of like sharper. It's where we're getting a lot more done with a lot less work because you don't have these internalized filters that have made parts of the brain become dormant and the DNA to become dormant.
mm-hmm.
To where we're getting rid of the buffers, we're stepping well beyond. It's kind of like a comfort zone thing. You know, reality is reality. Fact is fact, universally, ascension-wise, and so forth. You outgrow your comfort zones to where now, because comfort zones begin to become hindering rather than expansive.
Mm-hmm.
And you're taking it by leaps and bounds. Okay, I got to this point, show me more. I got to this point, show me more. To where we're not just becoming stagnated with this over here, pain is bad, comfort is good, a lot point of life is to be undisturbed, blah, blah, blah. Well, now we're reaccessing, reactivating all the sensory neurons to take you well beyond all your hypothetical day-to-day perceptual realities to opening up. I say that also receiving new thought, new contemplation, receiving more and more data and information, but now without the filtrations. It's kind of like, what is sanity? And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like, what is
That's a good
normal?
question.
Because they, well, you're insane. Well, am I insane? Am I insane? Or have I opened up to so much more than the day-to-day proverbial systemology of society? Now, others, they're deemed to be insane. Even Einstein was considered brilliant, but also insane. But it's because you go beyond all the matters of science. Consciousness alters matter, thoughts create, all this other stuff. Where what happens when you grow beyond it to where you're just no longer encumbered, and where ones get to funky states and they become a clearing station for entities, energies, thought forms, on and on and on, family curses, blah blah blah. Well, that occurs, but that's because they're looking to escape their body, not fully marry into it and expanding through it.
Right. The fear comes up, right?
Fear, but fear is interesting, isn't it, Jeannie? How fear, I've summed it up, that fear is only a lot of misinterpretations. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Right. What some people look as fear, others look at as a challenge, or as an opportunity, and some people are paralyzed by it and some people embrace it.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, right? We have a body on a planet, but then with our body on this planet, you start to, of course, outgrow the day-to-day hurrahs. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And you get to a point where, all right, I have a form. Now, you start to look at the form no longer as a solid structure, because the body's not solid. Cells, all these cells vibrating at a certain frequency, even to make up the largest organ in the body, which is the flesh, vibrating at a certain frequency until eventually you vibrate beyond it and you start noticing more of your own translucentness. And then you feel your skin, the cells in the skin, vibrating, vibrating, vibrating. So now, okay, you have a liver, your body, not you. Your body has a liver, it has kidneys, it has a spleen, it has a pancreas, blah, blah, blah. Well, where we just take a breath, okay, I get it. But no matter how we look at it, they're still just vibratory frequencies vibrating at a certain level, giving it the appearance of being a solidified structure. But the part I always find interesting is when you tune into it, like to the liver, it's only as solid as you are suppressed.
Because you're suppressed.
Yeah, so if I'm identifying, okay, I have this body, okay, well, how do the eyebrows look? Do I have a mustache? No. And all these self-identificational things. What happens when we outgrow that to where, I'm not saying don't enjoy the body, I just encourage you to enjoy it more than ever. But now we're not identified with it. Like right now, like even playing with physics right now, we went into the oceanic realm, we went into all these kingdoms. But I find it interesting, right? Because you didn't leave the body, you expanded beyond the body, through the body, to go into all these different realms. But yet, in all these different realms, you're expanded beyond the identification with solid matter.
Mhm.
So you go beyond that, which tells you, it's not all that solid. Because if I'm expanding through it, each and every pore, each and every crevasse, dermis, epidermis, subcutaneous layer, you're vibrating faster and faster because you're bringing more of you in that picks up the body, lets the body vibrate faster and faster, with the whole idea around ascension. Ascension is the acceleration of vibratory levels and frequencies of megahertz to where you're ascending, and you're now ascending in consciousness, just not identified like, the whole Cain and Abel thing, where one had a dense club, whacked the other one over the head. And, I think we know the rest of the story from there. But from here, where, what even makes, because that's all mental, emotional, ego identifications. But then again, you go beyond it. Is that white wine or
No,
big
it's
enough for the class?
water.
Okay.
Maybe later. No.
Yeah, but it's
I'm trying
where,
to get into those altered state of consciousness.
yeah, I thought that was Silver Patron, but I
Yeah,
wasn't sure.
ayahuasca.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you see, you're accelerating and accelerating, which in turn, you're activating the fountain of youth within your own body.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And as we expand, don't we also feel lighter, feel healthier? We push out dis-ease and, change our physical, if you will, structure and can shift our own. But well, you shifted that body that you were given
Yeah,
tremendously with your
and
consciousness, right? By having more
exactly.
conscious.
So it has you question, right? What is there really? What is there really to hold on to? I remember sitting in the wheelchair, the little quickie thing. That's what it was. That was the brand of it. On the front doorstep at the top of the handicap ramp at the home I was staying in. I just got my third death sentence. Well, Will, been great, been wonderful. Sayonara, nothing more we can do for you. And science, great business, but they went as far as they knew to go, like in a physical pain management, scientifically speaking. So, okay, there's my third, I call it, quote, death sentence that I watched so many buy into. So I sat there. I said, well, obviously there's nothing to protect anymore. Obviously, at this moment, right here, right now, well, obviously nothing else really mattered. Because if you're being given your death sentence, blah, 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 nothing more we can do for you, well, it really shines a light on things for yourself of what really matters. And then I would just say frivolous things. Does it matter that someone left up the toilet seat and you fell in? Let's put things in perspective, right? And one thing led to another. And then, the ascended host realms, angelic, archangelic, on and on, started showing up. Pleiadians, Orions, Prashants, Plutonians, Jupiterians, on and on and on. All veils really started collapsing. The Mother and the Magdalena, these are all great hypothetical names, but it's not about the names. It's about the beautiful love of the presence in which they brought, of such great sereneness, such great comfort. I didn't think my way through it because that obviously wasn't working because medication fried the brain. So, so you're looking at it, right? And it's like, okay, I get it. So now I can go down this path, which is thrown in the towel, whatever, whatever, or I can go to another path of struggling and fighting, or I can choose neither one. And that was when the body shifted and turned around and started regenerating. And
Mm.
a dear one came into my live stream at that time. Her name was Dale. And she cognitively brought forth, at that time it was Reiki, and the complete cellular mind-body alignment, and then the complete cellular soul memory clearing. And so I went down as far as you can go to the last moments per se, a heart attack, blah, blah, blah. But then that was before she presented. But then I was sitting there on the porch, and there's got to be something more. Because you got to remember, when I came into the body, I had all the Will Gunk, all of his memories, all of blah, 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 his issues, karmically and otherwise. So as I sat there, I was like, well, show me more. And that's when she presented in my live stream. It was like we'd known each other for eons. And one thing led to another, to another, to another. And what was it, like 6, 8 weeks later, I was out of the wheelchair. But it was that point of surrender. That point, that's why you watch so many, when they finally accept death, they relax and they glow. But it wasn't so much physical death. It was also, I would say, more important than any of it, the death of the ego, which was killing the body. Isn't that fun?
That was awesome. That's awesome. That's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that. That was awesome.
So that's when these realms started opening, because you're not pushing, you're not forcing, you're not battling, you're not challenging, you're welcoming.
Right, right. And that's all that matters really, is the love, right? We get back to what, well, to me, that's what COVID-19 is all about, and what's going on right now is that we're just getting back to what really matters. What really matters.
I thought it was just about
family.
finding your beach. Well, Corona, you know, that's our commercials.
Right. Yes. Yes. Do you have a line? No. It's like
and salt for the rest of your tequila.
It's like when we get back, and you know, maybe you can expand about like what's going on right now. I mean, I'm sure it's funny that the oceans are getting clearer because there's less people and pollution, and there's less air pollution from the cars and everything going on. And we're reconnecting with our loved ones because we're forced to stay home. Some of us are alone, and maybe reconnecting with ourselves, and that expansion, and you know, what is this all part of the master plan, and is this exactly what we need to, like what you were saying, get back to what really matters?
Absolutely and completely. And see, the whole COVID thing, you know, we can get into whatever, China, blah, 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 but it doesn't matter. The most important part is it stopped Brother Humanity in their tracks. Didn't matter if you're a quazillionaire, or you're a CEO, or a janitor, or working at the Quickie Stop. None of that mattered. Didn't matter if you're a waitress, waiter, blah, blah, blah. Everything stopped right there in its tracks. And what happened, it's like it hit the reset button, number one, for the mass collective consciousness as a whole. In a bigger picture, it had everyone stop, even being put in a position of asking themselves, you know, with all this stuff all said and done, on and on and on. Okay, I'm not my job. Okay, I'm not my bank account. Okay, I'm not my dietary plan. I'm not any of this other stuff. And I had them stop them in their tracks, which is kind of cool how, you know, quarantine land and all the quarantinis, you're there with your perceivable or hypothetical loved ones, the ones you say you love, but now you're right there in their presence. Either you're going to eat each other, or you're going to remember the love that you are. What am I doing with this situation or that situation? I've been so busy, I forgot I had kids. I've been so busy, I forgot about, wow, why I even started this profession in the first place. I forgot all about how I really feel about my partner. I got I've been putting on all these shows, going to all the dance clubs, blah, blah, blah. But what am I really looking for? And all of the ego stuff got stopped right there in his foot tracks.
Mhm.
The planetary systems got paused. And all of it has reached a beautiful birthing and opening of higher states of consciousness, crystalline states of consciousness, light particle states of consciousness. And also, I've referred to the corona thing more about a truth serum, because it stops you to be honest with yourself,
Mhm.
honest about how you really feel, not just being a busy bee or a hamster on a wheel. It stopped. It's like the veils came off. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? When it's all said and done, what really matters here? We can go back to all the financial issues back in 2008 or 4 or whenever, and that was another pump in the brakes. And it lit up so many. Now it goes beyond just what we do when we do how we do, financial blah, 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 or professional identifications, to now it's like, wow, now we're in that state that, do I want to be here or not? For many, they've been trying to hold on to an old paradigm, an old way, and that's the quickest way to leave the planet. Now, because it's like trying to grasp you fall into a well, you're trying to climb out, but there's nothing to grasp onto, and the egos are slipping. And then you look at others that are past the finish line, per se, because there is a finish line with back in the karmic lattice work of what you came into experience, how far you were trying to gonna go, and then when you were getting your attention, not getting your attention. And even those dear ones are being moved out to make a full transition to come back in, hopefully in their fullest potential. Indigos, rainbows, crystalline, on and on and on. And in the double, quadruple, we're starting to go into the quadruple indigos. Like kids having kids, now their kids having kids. So from here, it's like all of that old archaic energy. Yeah, COVID's come in with a giant swoop. You go look at all the fires going on, which are really assisting as well for dear ones to become unidentified with stuff. The stuff is not who they are. Who they are is right here, right now. Not about the past, but about, all right, well, today, how best can I walk my walk? Today, what's really getting me out of bed in the morning? If you sleep in a bed.
Yeah.
And so beautifully for the animal, plant, oceanic realms, animal kingdoms, even the mineral kingdoms. It's so cool, watching how the animals are coming out of hiding, watching how, I remember having a session with a dear one in Norway that I think it was sheep or goats or something were all over the city now. And it was just pretty awesome because they weren't being ran out of, technically they were here before humanity. So it's trying to find that middle ground. The oceanic realms are no longer being overfished, taken advantage of, and all these kingdoms being able to remineralize themselves as well as their species, to where we get back to, where a few years ago, one of the biggest fears, we're going to run out of resources, blah, 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 and we're all going to have to move to Mars. Well, good luck taking public transportation to get there. Now from here, it's all happening simultaneously to allow the planet to regenerate itself as well. And clearing up all the oil spills, all the gunks, where the planet's saying, all right, be gone, be gone, be gone. To where now, it's like a whole new birthing coming forth.
Yeah, and what do you see moving forward? Obviously we're not going to go back to the way things were.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. That's just not going to happen.
Well, on a bigger scale, I would say like all the invisible lines, like borders, blah, 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 they've become a lot more relaxed. It's so not so fearful. Will they always be there? Yeah. So we're not exactly going fully into the Garden of Eden anytime yet, or the Garden of Sweden either. We're going into a state where dear ones start to really, rather than all this hate, anger, rage, blah, 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 they start to really open their hearts that everyone, every culture, color, and creed, religion, blah, 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 there's a purpose for all of it. And where you're able to now not shoot them on sight, but become more, I'd say beyond tolerant, more looking for, okay, you have this offer, this is what I have to offer. Great. How best can we come together with it? Rather than you got to believe what I believe, blah, 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 or there's something wrong with you. All those divisions are collapsing. And that's what you kind of have to love about this whole pandemic thing, because belief systems, culture, color, creeds, blah, 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 none of it matters.
Right.
It's about a whole shift for humanity that are coming together. If I go to the Orient, great, I'll experience the Orient and all the gifts they have to offer. If someone comes to the US, Canada, Brazil, whatever, great. How we get to share customs, not be battling them.
Well, isn't that the dolphin way, to be in a pod
Totally.
and to
Exactly.
share? I mean, I know that dolphins in reality, they birth their babies, but then there's the aunties, and everyone takes care of
Yeah.
the infant. It's a group sharing and connecting, and they work together to hunt and all these things.
And bringing together all of their unique and diversifications, to where it adds to the whole. It's not my way, your way, it's our way.
Right. It's a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Awesome.
there's like my journey, your journey, and then our journey together. So it becomes that it is in the state, and it's been beautiful to watch dear ones come out of hiding, dear ones to really come out of fear, to really open their doors to others and opening their heart to others, globally speaking.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we're doing right here now.
You know it, baby.
All right. I have some questions I'm going to get to, and if anybody wants to type in the chat some other questions. But so these questions are submitted. So you don't have to go into a long explanation, but we'll just kind of get through these and kind of
Okay.
quickies. What are the dolphins and whales sharing? Why are the dolphins and whales sharing planet Earth with us at this time?
To stabilize the grids, to reactivate the harmonics, technically with all kingdoms, but also the relationship between them, the Orions, Pleiadians, the many different mammals as well, to bring it together, like sewing it together with all these streams of consciousness, and now even assisting for humanity to look beyond their noses, to look more into all that is, and how they're interweaving gold streams of consciousness to it, as well as assisting, reactivating, and realigning and reharmonizing with the grids of the planet, sending messages through the grids to the land, to brother humanity, through the DNA, the RNA, the very genomes, human genome and molecular structures. And then they're also here to share data and information. They're here to share more encodements of consciousness. They're here to create more of a harmoniousness of coming together, but also it's so beautiful. Whales as a whole, they've been holding a certain harmonics, and now it's even escalating, which goes with back to the ascension status lattice work, and how they're also stabilizing that, integrating, anchoring in, and then activating many different portals like the crystalline caves and on all over the planet to create so much more of a harmonics. And then we get into gravity. We get into how many have created all this stuff. Well, the Earth's going to turn on its axis, blah, blah, blah. How they're here to stabilize that from never happening and having the waters be at a level state. They're growing here and there, obviously, but you're not going to anytime soon have oceanfront property in Arizona. So they're helping to restabilize, and Wyoming's never going to become a beach town. So they're helping for all the checks and balances, but then they're also assisting with all the sinkholes where underwater wire caverns ground caverns being infused with water, fresh water, and things of this effect, to where, they're assisting with the magnetic harmonization to have everything playing to work in harmony as a restabilization.
It's like Dr.
Especially with this.
Emoto's work.
What's that, Swear?
Like Dr. Emoto's work to charge the water with love vibration.
That's a little bit, but more than love vibration, it's opening up these caverns of consciousness underground to restabilize the platelets. So like you look at sinkholes, you look at all this other stuff. Well, what's happening is that these areas, they're veins of, part of it oceanic, then fresh, how all of it kind of comes together to allow for more portals on the planet, to where, ice caps melting, blah, blah, blah. Well, rather than creating a tidal wave or a tsunami, what's happening is they're activating these caverns to where all of it can come in harmonies, to where it's not about another big giant catastrophe. It's more about a big giant reharmonance.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah.
That's part of why you're seeing more dolphins upstream these days.
Yeah, yeah. Even in New
York. I mean, it's kind of bizarre.
New York Harbor has dolphins.
Yeah, these things that are unheard of, right?
Unheard of, but not in my lifetime, but prior to this. All right. Do they have a role in the ascension process? And if so, what is it? Well, I think you kind of answered that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are we so drawn to the dolphins and whales?
You're drawn more so to the mystical realms, the esoteric realms. You're drawn more into eat, drink, be enlightened. You're drawn more into the messages, the health and vitality, the activations, the amplifications, including moving. It's kind of like there's a knowing, but the knowing is still an unknown. So it's like a knowing, but the unknown, and they're taking you on these adventures into their realms to bring forth the whole, full, and complete human beingness of greater in mammalian species that creates an intertwining, an intermarrying, to where you're marrying with all these different realms, on planet, on land, off land, and you're starting to really wake up. It's almost like grabbing a motorcycle, dune buggy, or whatever, and like if you take, for example, if there was no water on the planet, it would be a whole different adventure of exploration. Well, they're bringing all of this as well up to the forefront, to where you can do the same without, getting rid of the oceanic realms, but where it's starting to become more and more of an open door, and even going to their civilizations and also them coming into yours, to where these very beautiful, mystical, esoteric realms, which go all the way back, even prior Sananda and the biblical encodements, how they've been here interthreading, if you will, streams of consciousness interdimensionally, coming here, going there, and connecting a whole huge web, even of what I would say these days it's called telepathy, and on and on, but it really goes beyond that into a mutual communion, activation, amplification, and then you get back to the true understandings of Atlantis, Lemuria, and getting past all the, what I'll say, governmental hoopla around it way back when, and all the I'm up here, they're down there, you deserve to live, you don't, all that humanity nonsense, and bringing forth the mystical, majestical gifts. Because isn't it interesting, going beyond whales, dolphins, into the crustaceans and crustaceous kingdoms, where there are cures for cancer out there, and those veils are being lifted. Those veils are being seen thanks to the dolphins and the whales, and how even the sharks, for that matter, how I call them the cleanup crew, but they keep the oceans from getting it like polluted with disease because they're eating the sick fish.
Yeah.
And so many people are pretty sick.
The cycle of life. So what star system dolphins and whales come from? I think you said it was the Palladians. Is that for the whales too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pleiades and Orion.
And Orion. Okay. And do they reincarnate like we do?
You know, they do, but not like you and I would. They reincarnate like the body's going down, or they're being attacked by a predator or poisoned with chemicals in the oceanochrome, nuclear waste, blah, blah, blah. Well, what happens is before their body ever gives, they're already phasing back into the pod. If you could imagine the pod being like humanity in a soul group, the same thing applies. Each and every pod, they go off to their own thing, but they also go off and have their own journeys, their own, like a pod isn't just one thing. It has all these different reasons, harmonizations, and it's all over the map, really. But I'll say different purposes, but I kind of like to stay away from that because it's not like they come in and, okay, we have to do this and drill for oil, blah, blah, blah. No, they come in as free spirit, coming together as free spirit to amplify further, and then holding harmonances and amplifying them.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, are all the species of the planet ascending along with us?
Ascending vibratorily, yes.
But you were
So
saying that they've never been asleep, basically.
no, no. So is our bodies speeding up in vibratory frequencies? Absolutely. They play off the planet plays off them, then it goes into the universe, the solar systems, how even that's expanding, and other planets are being revealed, on and on and on. Well, yeah, they're feeling it, they're a part of it. Their body's vibratory frequencies and megahertz of light are speeding up, which is only making them more playful, accessible, and how that's affecting the harmonics of the grid systems as well.
Wow. So is it the whales that mostly work on the grid system, or is it the dolphins, or all
Well,
the oceanic?
the dolphins too. The dolphins are like, if you can imagine them like a gold thread swimming through the tapestry to hold a certain vibratory frequency.
Hmm.
And then that gets held, and then they together amplify it further. Now, the whales, that's kind of a little bit of a different story because they're more, you know, they've been more placeholders in the past, and they're still playing with the harmonic convergences that, I'll say convergence, but yet emergence of the harmonics, that because everything works in frequencies and tones. So they're activating grids, they're activating even what I would say the underlying caverns, as well as underlying caverns, into the universal formulae of placeholders that are allowing this planet to be more and more amplified with a lot more ease and grace. And then they also hold the equator belts, basically alleviating any chance of polar shifts, although that wouldn't really happen anyways. But they're harmonizing to hold those magnetics in place.
Yeah. Well, it's been so lovely.
It's been a whale of a good time.
We had a whale of a time, absolutely. Yeah, dolphins, whales are all cheering. And I just want to thank you, Will. I don't know if you had any last comments or thoughts, but I just want to thank you for entertaining my idea to meet with you in this way and to have this conversation.
This has been awesome. So thank you, Miss Jeannie, and great job, as always.
You too. And thanks to everybody on the call. And I'm recording it, and I will be making a video and replay. And they could reach you at williamlinville.com. Right?
And one last thing, I saw a question pop up about the 400 pilot whales and things like that. So I just wanted to say, yes, the grid systems are changing. That's why you've watched so much of the oceanic realm at times become beached, because they go by magnetics. They don't really go by what I would say structures. And now that the magnetics have shifted, yeah, there's times where things get brought on shore. But then they wake up to it and keep going.
Sorry, I'm here.
Yeah, so the magnetics are changing. So therefore, when they follow magnetics at times, as humanity is arising and as the magnetics are shifting, they switch back to, technically switch back over to new magnetics coming forward.
People, are you listening to what we're about to say? You see, we're on a mission, trying to find